Hello everybody and welcome back to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. I'm your host Ari Stamatakos and today we're here with another episode of Aussies Abroad. Now what this series entails, for those who haven't seen the first episode, basically this is where we go through the weekend's footballing actions and take a look at some Aussies that are playing in European leagues or in some other leagues across the world and take a look at the best performing Aussies across the weekend's games. Now as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, we'll be touching on Riley McGree's performance for Middlesbrough in depth before touching on some other performances by some Aussies at the end of the episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. So as I touched on in the intro, and as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we'll be touching on Riley McGree's performance for Middlesbrough over the weekend. Now, before we actually get into the game that he played against Millwall over the weekend, let's give a bit of context and a bit of background information as to who Riley McGree is as a player. Now, of course, when we take a look at his most recent time for the Socceroos, that of course came in the World Cup, right? He played all four games. He did play a part in all four games for the Socceroos at the World Cup, and he played a very interesting role. Now, in the way that the Socceroos played, they play with an almost 4-1-4 or 4-4-1-1 system, I should say. And McGree, in the absence of the injured Adrian Hrustic, played in that number 10 role. But the way that McGree likes to play is that he's very combative. He's a very industrious style midfielder. He's very, very capable of running up and down all day, almost acting as a defensive attacking midfielder in a sense. He's very, very capable, very capable without the ball. He's very intelligent when it comes to his pressing, very, very combative, very industrious in the way that he approaches the game, very strong in tackles, very strong in the duels that he contests. So the way that McGree likes to play out of possession kind of suits the way that he likes to play in possession in a sense, because he does all that combative, industrious stuff out of possession. That kind of the reward that he gets when he does have the ball is that he's very intelligent with the way that he plays. He's very smart, very clever, doesn't like to do overly complicated things, isn't overly flashy, doesn't have flair, like an abundance of flair, but he just does the simple stuff well, and he does the simple stuff right, which is something that has taken his game to the next two levels and levels above what he was playing at when he was at the A-League only a couple of seasons ago. Now, when we look at the way that he played in two positions for the Socceroos at the World Cup. He played in that number 10 role, like I just said, but did also play off the left wing or as a left midfielder. And this kind of translates well into the way that he has been playing for Middlesbrough, which we'll touch on a little bit later on. But when we look at the way that he played for the Socceroos on that left-hand side, he was very much a traditional left midfielder. He would be, I wouldn't necessarily call him a left, definitely wasn't a left forward, potentially even wasn't a left winger, just a traditional old-fashioned left midfielder that got up and down that left-hand side, was very, very important, I should say. That without the ball, defensively was very, very solid before being that player who can play on the counter-attack, get those balls in behind. I mean, we did get the assist for Matthew Leckie, for his goal against Denmark, which saw Australia get through the group stage. So he is one of those players that is very, very capable on the counter-attack because he's very intelligent and because he does the simple stuff right. He doesn't like to overcomplicate things. He has very good composure with the ball, can drop deep, can play in between the lines, and can really just control the tempo of a game from that left-hand side if he does play on the left-hand side, right? So this is something that McGree has been capable of doing his whole career, just doing the simple stuff really well. That makes him a very, very dangerous threat on the counter-attack, like I said, because he picks the right option 9 times out of 10, but also makes him a very, very dangerous threat when his team have possession and when his team are dominating the ball, because he can recycle possession, he can dictate the tempo very well, whilst also being able to explode into those advanced areas and break in between the lines and really create an impact in the final third. So this kind of double-faceted, this multifaceted way that he can play, and he has multiple threats. He's very dangerous in multiple areas of the pitch. This makes him a very dangerous opponent to come up against, and a very tricky player to defend against, especially in a one-on-one style context. Now, and we take a look at his game, a most recent game for Middlesbrough against Millwall at Riverside. This was a very, very important game for both sides. Both sides are vying for a playoff place, so this game was massive. The 3 points for either side were massive. Middlesbrough came away with a 1-0 win. McGree, while he didn't get a goal or an assist, definitely played a very, very big role in this match. He played on the left-hand side of an attacking midfield three. However, similarly to his role playing for the Socceroos, was a little bit more defensively minded in a sense, and he was a little bit more combative in the way that he plays. Now, the way that he has played for Middlesbrough throughout the majority of the season has been on this left-hand side of this midfield three or midfield four, depending on. But, like I said, he is very capable of dropping deep, almost playing as a traditional left midfielder. That is arguably his best position, being able to just control the tempo, being able to use his brilliant defensive work and his brilliant football IQ to really make an impact off that left-hand side. The role that he's been playing for Middlesbrough this season, which I just mentioned, does suit him because he's a left footer. Now, traditionally, especially in the modern game, you got more often than not see right footers playing on the left hand side and left footers playing on the right hand side due to the ability, due to the fact that they can cut inside on their preferred foot and get better passing angles, get better shooting angles, which also allows the runs from the wing backs, who are becoming more and more crucial in the modern game from an offensive standpoint. This allows them to have the space on the overlaps, etc. But what you have with McGree being a left footer on the left hand side is that he almost takes the game back to like the 90s in a sense, where he's a traditional left midfielder, a left footer playing on the left hand side, and this allows him to drop deep and collect the ball, almost playing in a similar way to the way that Kevin De Bruyne has kind of been occupied for Manchester City. The reason I make that comparison is because the way McGree likes to play, he likes to drop deep and collect the ball before then looking up and having almost the entire field to kind of look at from that left hand side. He collects the ball from deep, meaning that he has pretty much every single one of his teammates, or in an offensive standpoint anyway, is in front of him, so he can pick the right option, he can take his time and dictate the tempo from that left hand side, similarly to how Kevin De Bruyne has been occupied for Manchester City in the past, just on the right hand side. McGree is a very capable crosser of the ball, very capable when it comes to breaking in between the lines with a dangerous pass or even getting a shot off. So he has this ability to not only distribute very well, but he has the ability to quickly drive the ball forward and use a quick burst of pace to get past the man and then make an impact through skipping past a man and breaking into a little bit of breaking into some space where he can then make that pass, cross, or shot. So he's a very dangerous player in multiple aspects. We touched on that a little bit, where he can play. He was both a 10/8 as well as on the left hand side, both in and out of possession. He's very, very good, and as well as being able to get past a man, as well as distributing the ball very, very well. Like I said previously, the composure and the passing ability that he does have allows him to drop deep and a little bit more centrally to collect the ball, and this was something that was very, very prominent in this match against Millwall. Now, in the way that he likes to play, I think we can bring up the heat map here. Which shows just the facets of his game where he likes to play. Now, it's very, very heavily in that left half space in a sense, but you can see here that he does like to drop deep, collect the ball, and then almost rebound into that left half space where he can then get a shot cross, or break that, or get that pass in between the lines. In this game especially, he didn't make a lot of those third man runs into the box, which we have seen at times for both the Socceroos and for Middlesbrough, I should say. But what he did exhibit in this game, I should say, is that just composure, that ability to collect the ball, retain possession, and to dictate the tempo from deep. That is something that is something in his game that has evolved over time. When he was playing in the A League a couple of seasons ago, he was a little bit more of a traditional number 10 in a sense, where he did like to make late runs into the box, did like to create from a final third aspect. But since he has moved overseas, since he has moved abroad, he has become a little bit more of a calm, composed player, being able to drop deep, collect the ball, and just do the simple stuff really, really well. That's an asset of his game which has improved tenfold, and that is something that was definitely on show in this match. Now, when I've mentioned previously, he's a very, very good player when the ball's out of possession, I should say, when his team doesn't have the ball. For a creative / attacking midfielder, he's very, very energetic, so he can run up and down all day, and he's very intelligent. Like I've said countless times so far this episode, he's very intelligent. He knows where to position himself. He's able to recover the ball more often than not for his side, and that just adds another avenue to his game, which makes him such a vital player for whatever sides he plays for. Now, when we take a look at some stats that came from the game against Millwall, he had 32 out of 39 passes completed, that's 82%. He won 3 from his 4 ground rules, going at 75%. He had a game high 5 interceptions, which once again goes to show his intelligence, his ability to cut those passing channels off and to position himself in the right areas. He also had 2 tackles and 1 key pass. So obviously the 2 tackles goes to show that his ability to be a very, very solid defensive contributor once again, and that 1 key pass as well shows his ability to dictate from deep, being able to get those passes in between the lines, being able to get those crosses into the box from a slightly deeper position. This kind of evolution in his game from being a more traditional attacking, creative number 8 midfielder, if you were to call him that, to now a player that can drop deep, play on the left-hand side as well, essentially, can drop deep, can be more composed with the ball, whilst also being able to get that quick burst of energy to skip past the man, and also being very capable defensively, has made him a very, very solid contributor for Middlesbrough so far this season, and will definitely put him high in demand. In the coming seasons as his game continues to elevate and as he physically matures, grows into his body a little bit more, and adapts even further into the English game. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he does make that step up very, very soon. But so far from Middlesbrough this season, he's been a more than handy contributor, and he was a more than handy contributor for his game against Millwall over the weekend. So yeah, that was Riley McGree's brilliant performance. Now to finish up this episode, I'm going to touch on some two players who played in the same game for the same team to finish up this episode, and we'll touch on their performances as well. So let's finish up this episode by touching on two more Aussies who played pretty well over the weekend, and we're first going to be touching on Rowles, who played a very, very crucial role for his Hearts and Midlothian side as they got their 1-0 win over St Mirren. He played as a left-sided centre-back in a back three, which is just another avenue for his game, the way he can play very, very well, being able to maintain the width on the left-hand side whilst also controlling possession and being super solid when it comes to being in his ground duels and in his tackles is something that was very, very crucial for you. That has been crucial for his side this season, but was even more crucial for his side in their 1-0 victory. It was a must-win game for Hearts, and they were able to get the job done, and Rowles was a very big part in that. Some stats that have come from that game: he had 66 of his 74 passes were successful. That's an 89% success rate. He had 5 clearances, and he had 6 successful long balls out of his 8 attempts. So that goes to show that technically very capable, but being able to control possession and distribute from deep, very capable. And then also for his 5 clearances goes to show that he's very combative defensively, very strong in a tackle, very able to get that defensive side of his game well and truly under wraps, which is something that we all, as from a Socceroos perspective, we're looking at heading into the World Cup. He played very well for the Socceroos in those 4 games in Qatar, and he's translated that form across to his Hearts side, which is something that is very, very pleasing to see. And we're going to be finishing up this episode on Garang Kuol, who made a very, very short 13-minute cameo in his debut for Hearts, and he only had 2 touches of the ball in those 13 minutes, but one of them was a key pass and really should have been an assist. If you've been on Twitter, if you've been on social media, I'm pretty sure you would have seen the clip, but he broke down the right-hand side on the counter-attack, which is something that he's done countless times for Central Coast so far in his career, and I'm sure will do countless times for Hearts and for Newcastle in his 2 decades-long career, we can only assume. And he played a brilliant square ball across the face of goal, but the striker couldn't quite finish it off. So it would have been a very, very good story if one of his only 2 touches for his side in his debut was an assist, but it wasn't meant to be. Still was he only had 2 touches in 13 minutes, so we can't really take a lot out of the game, but I think it was pretty important to mention just what could have happened to Garang Kuol in his debut for Hearts. But yeah, they're the 2 players which we'll finish up this episode on. And thank you very much for watching the second episode of Aussies Abroad. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Leave your thoughts about what other players or what other segments or how you would like to see this series structured. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. See you guys next time, man. Goodbye.